Okay, thank you everybody for joining us. We have Courtney Ayers, Tom Murphy, Lauren Zills, otherwise known as our sales team and our strategy team. Oh, also me. But I'm really here as a moderator to kind of hear you guys out because you guys have been working with clients a lot recently as far as figuring out how are we going to reach clients, how are we going to help them reach their clients, what channels are working. And the main topic for this roundtable is we're going to keep it casual. We put together some questions in advance, and we just kind of want to hear you guys out about what's going on in the real world. As we've talked about some of the theory of how you should be marketing in this time, you guys are actually working with people to help them accomplish their goals right now. So just wanted to go through that. So first of all, we did have a preamble. Tomorrow, this is a dated and pre-recorded thing, by the way, is Lauren's birthday. So we have to really celebrate that. So congratulations, Lauren.
Thanks. I'm not
And
going to
then,
give you my address, but if somehow you know where I live.
yeah, well, everybody, we're anybody watching this, all four people watching this, we're going to all go over to Lauren's house and do a parade.
Well, that's the hot thing right now too. I've been a part of 3 birthday parades, so the more the merrier.
That's right. Cool. Okay, so I figured we'd start out. Does anyone have anything initially they wanted to share before we dig into some of the questions that I sent around for us to talk through, or anything anybody wants to share? No. Okay, so we'll dig in. Okay, so the first question I had that I wanted to hit on was how have clients been reaching out under their current situation? It seems like some have been pulling back their marketing efforts and refiguring out we don't want to be doing this, we do want to be doing that. But overwhelmingly, most clients still seem to be marketing. Would you guys tend to agree, Courtney? What's happening in your world?
Yeah, definitely. So, hands down, all of my clients who are still functioning like normal have not de-escalated any of their efforts. The only ones that I've seen any amount of change with are ones whose businesses have been really gravely impacted, whether like they're closed right now.
Right.
I think that that's more of like a desperation financial situation to just help keep their business afloat than it is I think that they actually wish that they could still market, but maybe just aren't in the financial position to be able to do so right now.
And some of them, I think you've had a couple clients have just pragmatically, it's no secret that, Spectrum Orthopedic, they had to pause elective surgeries right now. So right now, they're just doing it more of the fact of it doesn't make sense to be driving a lot of people to a facility that can't be used for that purpose right now.
We can't facilitate what they need right now. So they didn't really, they just scaled back a little bit because they've been able to also kind of shift their focus in their direction. And I don't know if you want to talk about that yet or not, but so we've kind of taken what we would have normally put towards some of those surgeries and looped it back through something that people can take advantage of.
Ah, okay, cool. Now, Lauren, how about you?
I would say I was pretty surprised by the reaction from a lot of our clients because none of us knew what to expect.
Right.
And I think people are getting annoyed by the word unprecedented now because it just really is. It's never happened before. So we didn't know if everyone would freeze up, and all of our clients, oftentimes the first thing to go is marketing.
Right.
So we don't agree with that.
As we put in our how to help your business survive a pandemic, which is another webinar that's currently out, and we urge you all to go look at that. We make a pretty good case as to why that's the exact wrong thing to do, not just for our financial benefit, but there's a lot of evidence that shows it not only can help you grow and succeed, but it may even be more risky to stop marketing at this time. Sorry, had to do a quick plug there.
And I didn't have to convince any of my clients of that.
Good.
Because everyone was on the same page with the best thing to do was to over communicate with your prospects and with your current clients right now. And so I was really pleasantly surprised by a lot of our clients' reaction was really to think outside of themselves of what are their clients going through right now.
Got it.
Putting themselves in our client shoes and how do we want to communicate to them and how do we want our messaging to be to them so they know that we support them. So a lot of the messaging and a lot of the service updates were really empathetic to what their current clients were experiencing. So the reaction was with that in mind, but it wasn't to pull back on marketing. It was more of how do I shift my messaging? How do I shift my tone? How do I best support our client base?
Okay. And Tom, you look, welcome to the Doing Your Own Haircut Club.
Yeah, I'm actually not a new employee. I've been around a while. I just decided to go with the new look. I think this is the typical Corona cut people are sporting these days.
It's looking good. And although you do appear a little menacing when you're looking up in the right-hand corner and you're listening to other people talk, it's a little scary because you just look like you might be the bouncer to the club sanctuary.
That's the look I'm going for. Just kind of, I'm aging. The hair, I'm not as pretty as I used to be, but
I don't know. I think you're gorgeous. So
this part of your mouth turns up a little bit.
Yeah. So so what have you been finding as you've been talking with the clients? Because we basically said, Tom, all this stuff's happening. Go talk to clients. What's your world been like? And what have your conversations?
Obviously I don't have as much client communication as Courtney and Lauren and some of the other team members, but we've been trying to get ahead of people, contacting us first and reaching out to them to see how their business is affected and how we can help them pivot and still communicate with their clients during this time. So, my role has changed a little bit. I was doing a lot of prospecting, trying to bring in a lot of new deals. And obviously during this time, it's become very challenging to be getting any sort of new acquisition. So communicating with our existing clients, seeing how we can still help them through this, pandemic is really kind of been my role, and just helping pick up things from the rest of the team to help support our team as needed. I think making sure that our marketing plan and how we're supporting our existing clients is first and foremost, and the sales plan will kind of follow thereafter. So, the first few weeks of this has been kind of paralyzing for a lot of people, and probably people in sales too. And
Right.
now that we're kind of finally settling in and realizing this is the new normal, I think some of those things will start to pick back up, and we'll start to create some new approaches to how we're going to get through this.
Which is kind of what we talked about as well, is, the general guidance is we should be focused on helping our existing clients, and we should be helping our existing clients help their existing clients. Now is not a time to be focusing on new acquisitions. It's about helping people communicate the current status, how to set expectations for orders, how to set expectations for the service that they're getting, and what are all the things and the information that their clients are needing from them in order to maintain some sense of stability going forward. So that's certainly been kind of the challenge, kind of the focus. I mean, the first few weeks, we were getting, when the first shutdown happened, we were getting texts on Sunday because we tend to be pretty available to our clients, but we were getting texts on Sundays about, what messaging needs to go live on Monday because certain facilities would be paused for operations. But that was the bulk of probably our first 10 business days, I think, were getting that messaging out so that they could set those expectations for their clients. But after that initial rush, we are, we're more doing long-term marketing planning still, and still figuring out what the messaging needs to be in the short term.
Okay. That is still evolving, I would say. So in that first week, we got messaging those were all the initial requests of, we just want our customers to know, are we essential or aren't we?
Right.
Are we in operation or aren't we? What our hours are? What days we're working? How are we available? And a lot of that has even changed from week to week, because there's a lot of more information out now. There's a lot more fear in some cases now from factory workers and things like that has changed people's priority and people's hours that are open. So that has been an ever evolving thing for a lot of our clients, that we're regularly updating their hours.
And as we're recording this, we're coming off a peak, certainly in Ohio, and certainly in the U.S. It's looking like we're peaking, and the conversations nationally are turning towards how are you going to fire business back up, and what's that staging. So I think we're all, as much of a rush there was to communicate a work stoppage, so to speak, there's probably going to be a similar rush to getting that messaging out of, now that we're cleared to do business, this is how we can do that once we start getting guidance of what's appropriate, certainly from our government. So I guess that's something that's just
Yep.
hitting me right now is we're going to have to be ready for another rush of work to kind of adjust the messaging that was out there. You all, actually, Lauren, you brought up a good point. You're the one who had raised it to me initially was Google My Business because they provided some great updates as far as how to notify and keep people up to speed through their tools about what's happening and what changes. So that's a change that's going to have to switch back as well. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's been something I've actually been super impressed by, and I follow all like the 900 million Google handles there are to follow on Twitter. But just how regularly they've been actively updating their service offerings, and the one Kelly's mentioning about just updates specific to coronavirus and updating your hours, and also what they did with events on Google where you could show what events have been canceled that you had live. And there's just been a ton of stuff that Google has developed just in this short time to help people let their clients know what's happening, what's not happening, and all of that stuff has been really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I mean that was pretty powerful, and I think a lot of people jumped to that. Courtney, you look like you have something to add there.
I was going to say that during the first, like I'm thinking today's been 32 days since I've been in the office, which seems crazy. Yeah, I marked it because I was like, I just know we'll lose track. And it's 32 days since we've been in the office. But we were really ahead of that. I mean, I think that when Stark County had its first case, you can work from home like the second day.
Right.
We were really ahead of that vibe. And so I remember my first week being at home, there was no government mandate about what anyone needed to do.
Right.
Besides, now we got to start being more careful. And so I think that the vibe amongst my clients was very, we're fine, everything's fine. It's no, like, no, we're fine. And then I think it kind of evolved into like a concern of, will the traffic in our store slow down? Will patients want to cancel their appointments? Are people going to be spending money? And more of like those types of concerns to, we're no longer doing elective surgeries. You have to close your store. You can't do this. You can't do that. Like, and then as those things have continued to evolve, the tone just keeps shifting. So I think to Lauren's point, that's still happening. We're still seeing, well, the government locally here is not coming out with a lot of new updated mandates. It's still impacting businesses differently,
Right.
And our clients are not our clients. I mean, you can see it in our own community, a restaurant that was open the first 3 weeks is now, it's not worth it for us. It's in our best interest and the best interest of our employees and the best interest of the community for us to just take a step back. Or other people who are now shifting to, okay, we had to shut down, but we can make masks. So what do we need to do to get that going? So I think that just has continued to evolve so much, and I'm expecting the comeback to business might be a little like that too. I mean, we don't know what they're going to do, but it seems like they're not just going to turn the water faucet back on and say, everybody back to work, so maybe they'll start with medical offices, non-essential medical offices, and, get certain things back up almost in a similar way, reverse order that they took them down. And I anticipate everyone being really excited and really eager to like, okay, when can we go? When can we go? When are we going to go? And you won't know until you know. So it's just being prepared.
I would say, so we have a number of clients that have in-home services that they have to go into the client's home to do their job. So a lot of those clients have been launching like virtual consultations and virtual diagnostics. And a lot of that stuff is going on where we're creating ad campaigns to help drive traffic for those sort of things, to calm people's fears, to say like, we still can do our job. You still can contact us and fill out that form that you're interested in our product. And I really feel like that is going to just be a new service for them. I don't think that that's going to change or come down. It's just going to be another layer of this is something that we do now, and this is something that we can offer. And I think it's going to be a great thing. I don't think everybody's going to always want a virtual consultation going forward, but I guarantee when the government says that, okay, these social distancing restrictions aren't as restrictive, that not everybody's going to be into that. there's still going to be fearful people. There's still going to be people that are more comfortable in their home. So I think all of those things are still going to be really important to have in place.
Well, and
Yeah,
frankly,
it's really changing. It's really changing the way we communicate for the long term. I mean, even just you're talking about in-home visitors. A friend of mine has a kitchen and bath company, and they have to pretty much do in-home consultations to see someone's kitchen or their bath. But they're talking about building a new website even during this time to figure out, hey, can we do creative things virtually so we can see things? Can we share samples with them virtually? So it's it's terrible, but it's really bringing out the creative sense in people to think, hey, how can we still provide the same level of service to our customers even during this time and in the long term if this changes things for the future.
right.
I think it's up to a lot of businesses to figure out how they can reach an audience in a different way. And to Lauren's point, I think that, yeah, that's not going to go away. It's probably going to be a very stable part of what they do going forward, because there's a lot of ways it's probably more cost effective not to send someone into your home than it is to just do it via video. And it's less daunting on the customer that way. I'm thinking about the orthopedic office. They're doing that with telemedicine. Like, if I could just have this kind of a video conference to get my MRI results, as opposed to leaving work, making an appointment, driving in there, or taking care of an elderly parent or grandparent, and now
Right.
I have to drive them. Now it's both of us are inconvenienced over just like a 15-minute, what could have been a 15-minute phone call.
Right.
Now you're able to do it this way, and it's going to be preferable for a lot of people, especially in inclement weather, odd times of day. There's just so much benefit to it.
Mm-hmm.
I do expect it's going to change permanently the way we're going down that path, and that is something that also kind of came up as digital marketing and the way we're communicating and engaging is going to it's actually an acceleration of what already was happening, but it's going to be something that sets a little more permanently because we were forced into rapid adoption of some of this technology. But I also expect, and some of the things we've been reading is, trade shows, there's still going to be trade shows. There's still going to be there's still going to be in-person sales appointments, but there's going to be elements where digital can augment that. For instance, all of us may not go from Ohio to a Vegas thing. In fact, I don't think we ever have. But if we did, there's going to be more interactive elements for us all to participate remotely. Just thinking of how you structure that education, how you structure the communication, and even the conference and the trade shows and all those things, that's going to change. And I think even the way we do sales appointments, the pre, the during, the post, what are the interactive digital elements that can be part of that? It's going to just evolve how we reach. And that goes to our topic of how do you reach a quarantined office, or how do you reach a remote audience in the future. I'm sorry, Lauren, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say a lot of it has really branched out, not just from the how are people communicating, but what products and services are they communicating. And for those of our clients that have a deep bench in products and services they offer, they've been able to tap into that for things that are more relevant now. So a client of ours offers turnkey IT services for work at home teams. So there's a lot of people who had to transfer whole staff to working from home, and they weren't set up for that with private information and wanting everything to be protected. So one of our clients, they just didn't actively promote that service before. It was always available, but it didn't matter as much. So they were really able to shift, and we were able to help them do that and promoting it digitally. So there's been a lot of instances of that, of like, okay, well, let's step away from promoting this service because this is important now. So let's create content around this.
Well, and there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there too. Things you've had backlogged for a year or two. I mean, it's just like everybody, I guess, without kids right now. They've got projects and things that they're doing at home. Hey, we cleaned out our garage this weekend. Like, in a sense, people are able to do that with their business and with their marketing tactics as well. Is just clean up a lot of this stuff, address things on the website that have been, missed or put on the back burner for some time. So people are coming back and doing some of these someday maybe things that they've wanted to do for some time too, which is great.
Yeah. So, moving a little bit more down that channel of, what are the marketing channels that seem to be working for folks right now? Granted, a lot of people are repurposing their existing marketing teams to do housekeeping, as Tom's calling out. But what channels have we been focusing on? It certainly has been email, webinars, things like that. Can anybody want to share some their thoughts on how clients have been proceeding with that, and what the best ways have been to reach audiences?
I think that something I've seen across some of my clients has been a sensitivity for people who do more B2C transactions, a sensitivity of not wanting to come at people with a sales focus at a time where they know people have other bigger fish to fry. But they've also taken that opportunity to not just recede into the back shadows, but to pivot to be able to offer something that is either mostly free, I guess I would say, whether it's content, most of it's content too, I guess, whether it's like by way of blog posts or video demonstrations or recorded webinars, just getting new information out to people. And two specific examples of that. One of our clients is a conference and event center. So they are clearly closed. But they have shifted to partner with, they also have a wellness center attached to them. So they've partnered with them. And while their executive chef is creating recipes for people to try at home, things for their families to make together, then their wellness center is providing workouts that are easy to do, relaxation, or just for every facet of wherever you'd want to be. Their trainers are recording themselves and then publishing that stuff via social media. They're emailing it out to their client base. And so they're just able to provide a service to their customers that is very unrelated to a financial gain right now, but is related to supporting them where they're at, so that when they are able to shift back to normal, they'll still be top of mind and looked at as somebody who was a partner in a tough time, and not somebody who just only is here when you have money to pay us.
Right.
I do think that a lot of what I'm seeing is less channel specific and much more messaging specific.
Okay.
So an example would be we work with a client who provides health products for the veterinary world, and their factory is closed down, so they're not producing product right now and they're not shipping product out. However, they sell through distributors, so what's really important for them on the sales side is building relationships, and that doesn't change whether they're selling products or not, because once they are, then they will have those relationships still. So we're sending through cold email, through marketing email, through webinars, through social ads, through organic social. None of that has stopped. It's just really focused on messaging and building relationships with those people who oftentimes now are more available, and are responding more because they're simply like at their desk more now. So that has been working really well. We haven't seen a negative shift in results at all. So something that they would call a lead is a request for more information on their particular product, or a request for a consultation, or someone who listens to the webinar, because then they get fed into their regular drip campaign for more information about their product. So their heavy focus is relationship building, and that hasn't changed. So
I think that's the key point that Lauren pointed out, is the relationship building standpoint, is that even in a crisis or economic downturn, like, people still have wants and needs, and whether they're buying it now, I'm sure people are pushing pause on super large purchases and things. That's obvious, but down the road, whether this is 3 months from now, 6 months, 18 months, people still have those wants and needs, and they're going to remember the people that have built those relationships and those brands that are, out in front, that are taking care of the community and providing a level of service that's, not ambulance chasing.
Yeah, we don't want to be creepy. You don't want to be perceived as taking advantage or capitalizing on a tragedy, is certainly something we talked about. But I think it does. We've always, we do consider ourselves a sanctuary, as we hit on that a lot, of we want to be there for our clients for that purpose. And now is not the time for us to be reaping gains, quite frankly. Our goal is to be here during our clients' most difficult, probably the most difficult time of their business lives at this point. And our hope is it's a long-term partnership that as we come on the back end of this, we've established a deeper demonstration of our commitment to them, that hopefully that will result in them being committed to us for the long term. Certainly it's not all altruistic. We want to be perceived as being a valuable partner, but really, I think that's where the rubber meets the road. If we can be there for people right now, and if our clients can be there for their customers right now, that's where I think I probably had the best conversations with clients right now. It's helped break a lot of the kind of the barrier of that tends to be there with clients of hey, maybe you're just trying to get more money, or or whatever that wall might be in the client vendor relationship. It's more, we're people first, and how do you help that person, and how do you help them, because there isn't anyone who can come in and put on airs, so to speak, of saying, oh, we're doing great, everything's wonderful, how are you? It's we are all feeling, and we're all feeling a fear at the very least. So how are we going to help each other through that process? And in my just opinion, it's the transparency of that has been valuable for me.
Yeah, and it's the human interaction, because people are stuck at home and they're not interacting with anyone anymore except their own families. So whether it's a client or a colleague or someone, they enjoy talking to someone else. And
that might be a point.
Our relationships.
Well,
what was that, Courtney?
I've never received so many cell phone numbers to our clients. It's like weird. You're texting, you're calling, you're on that level now. So it feels more personal, I guess.
Yeah.
I think there's just an increased vulnerability too, that people are just sharing what's going on with them, because it is a tough time for most people, and not even revenue wise, and a lot of just because situations change, and you're working from home with your kids, or your dog that won't stop barking, or with your husband who, or whatever that situation is. It's just different. It's stressful, and we're all going through that, no matter what business you're in, no matter what your business model.
Well, that brings up a very good point, just because I think you've probably been watching your door very carefully, as Tom has, and probably Courtney as well. But you're waiting for your kids. What?
So I have my hand on my mouse ready to hit my mute button at any second.
But it is the world we're in, and that stress, and that just I meant to say at the beginning, it's like there's a good chance Millie, which would be Courtney's dog child,
Put her to sleep. She's
go in. My dogs might go off. Tom, you have a house of cats and kids and everything going on there. So
are you in with a creepy killer Halloween mask on the
It was more of an alien autopsy type of mask, but it was pretty cool, I thought.
I will say that I had a conversation this morning, just a regularly scheduled meeting with one of our clients who is serving people in a clinical setting.
Yeah.
So it's been very chaotic for them. And so many things that we just touched on, from them shifting to their products are still for sale on their website, but that has not been their focus at all. Their focus has been solely, this is a new thing. This is all new information daily, not just from what the government's saying, but what medical findings, new ways that we should be, guiding people on how to interact with the patients that they're caring for. So they're just providing free resources out the wazoo. I'm having thousands of people show up on webinars because these people need this information.
Right.
And so they've actually kind of put by the wayside their own personal revenue, to the point where they shared, they're like, some of our employees and our colleagues throughout the industry have been like, you still have to sell stuff too. You know that, right? And she's like, we just need to get this information out there. And that's just our priority right now. And she's like, we're just really hopeful that will pay off in the long run, and that we will have built, she didn't use the term sanctuary, but that's what she meant, that they've built their own sanctuary for their client base, that they were here to support them during
Yeah.
a tough time, and they're going to need them continually, ongoing. And so the lack of sales right now, and they're still selling, it's not that they're not, but the dips that they might be seeing right now are so secondary. But to the other piece of that too is that they have found us to be that sanctuary for them. Just singing the praises of our team members for being able to be there for them, to help them put all of this stuff up. It wasn't something in the plan, it wasn't something that anyone expected. And just that they would have never been able to do it without us. They've also had a death in the family. They've also had a daughter who works on an ICU floor in a Florida hospital. So just so much stress on just one company's owners. And then just the way that we've all shared that. And I mean, the first thing she said is, how are you guys doing? Where's your husband work? What's he doing? Is he at home yet? How's your company? Like, how are your other clients doing? Like, just a genuine concern for us as people and us as partners, which I think that they know is reciprocated as well. So there's a lot of good things happening too.
Well, that's a really good point too, because one of the things that really struck out to me is how many of our clients are family-owned businesses. So it's not just that the business is faced with these challenges. It hits home of your husband, your wife works there, your kids work there, your nephew may be a business director at the company. It's just all of these things where things are just interconnected. I'm making a joke. Tom and I are related in not through blood. We're making sure it's not, but
is this haircut is that like a family thing? You guys all had to just shave your heads?
No, mine isn't shaved. I'm just bald. Mean.
And I'm not a ginge. I'm way more attractive. Come on.
It's true. That's true. Yeah, if this is where
Love
Kelly
you,
gets
Uncle
quiet
Kelly.
and sad.
Just to build on what Courtney was saying, it is just such a cool to see people act so selflessly, and just being there because we know that we need each other. And another one of our clients who is also family owned, I actually received text messages from them this week, and they were having issues with one of their new virtual campaigns. And I happened to be in the car with the kids dropping off cookies on the porch to some family members, but I wanted to be there for them. And it wasn't like a question of like, oh man, this is annoying. It was just like, nope, I'll do it. And, I'll reach out to the team, we'll fix it. And then that was that.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. We can all be there to support each other because we know, like, in the end, like, we need to be there for each other.
So, as we talk about, I'm trying to pull together the themes of what we kind of keep hitting on. And it's certainly been, I guess, when we first picked this topic, or I picked this topic, is how do you reach a quarantined audience? It's not so much the tactical as we talked about, certainly the email. We know the tactics that are working. It isn't going to be, you can't do a cold call into an office building right now. That isn't going to work. You can't be knocking on the door. That isn't going to work. But it's how do you reach them, and the deeper meaning of reach, I guess, of it's I guess transparency, it's authenticity, it's vulnerability are the things I'm hearing. It's recognition that we're all going through some similar challenges right now, and hopefully it's the spirit of a rising tide lifts all boats, and that we're all going to be there for one another. As I guess one of the things we talked about previously and was it's expected to be a recession. We'd talked about this going into recession this year. Now it's pretty much going to be, whether by timing of it being cyclical or this really being a forced thing, it's going to happen. And in some senses, I feel like I'm ready to start marketing for a recession and getting out of this phase of shock and fear, because within a recession, we know how to move out of that. And on the flip side of it, just the weird way my brain works is the other shoe has dropped. It is, I was waiting for the recession. Now that it's here, I see up times, good times being, every day is going to get better from here on out. And at least that's my hope for this. So I'm hoping that we can be there for our clients on that front of here we are now. We're still not able to completely get back to business as normal, but what should clients be doing, our clients or anyone at this point, to prepare for coming out of this to rebuild their businesses? What should we be thinking about? And Lauren, it looks like you may have something to add there.
Well, I was just thinking about a call that I had with a client this week going through reporting of last month's results, which the client is like a little bit disconnected from like the actual like how many leads did we get in revenue, and so they were like worried that the leads were going to be really down because their revenue comes in months after the initial lead is received because it's a longer tail sale. But just kind of the sigh of relief that, hey, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Right.
And really seeing that across a lot of our clients, that there are like really specific dips right when that announcement happened that, this is a national emergency. And then after that, like a couple weeks go by, then it started to come back up. So having call after call or just email communications with clients where it's like, wow, I'm pleasantly surprised to see these results is kind of eye-opening, because things for a good group of our clients were not as bad as they were expecting them to be based on what's happening in the news and media and everything like that.
Yeah, I echo that too. And I even think that there was like a expectation for things to be so bad that even if March of 2020 was your worst month ever, you're like way better than I expected it to be. Because I think that people just didn't know what to expect. And I think that even moving into April, on a call I was on this morning, even I just looked to see what month to date was, just so we had some kind of a ballpark to determine, maybe March was buffered because half the month was decent, but what could April possibly look like? And the client had already looked too, and so they were like, well, I know our revenue's here, and while it is low, it's not awful. Like we could survive on that. And it's such a sigh of relief that just to think like, okay, one more month, like we're fine, like we're going to be okay.
Like we've seen April down with a lot of clients, but not as bad as March. So it looks like,
and I mean, I think if people are able to, I mean, obviously businesses are all in a different situation financially, but I mean, if you're able to, you should continue spending your money, if not more, on marketing, because companies are really in a kind of unique position to kind of capitalize on this as we go forward, because ad spend may be down, there's less competition. So if there's still only one company advertising, well, people are still searching, and guess what, that company wins because they're visible, while others might not be. So it's not really a time to get completely scared out of marketing and advertising. If anything, even before this pandemic, sources were saying you should be spending over half of your marketing budget on digital, and that's even more permanent now, that you should be spending the majority of your marketing dollars on digital. So,
and we may even rephrase that to marketing resources, because it may be the time that you give to this right now. Up until now, it's been a fear of, can I market it? Can I do it and be a good person? Will I be perceived as creepy if I'm out there trying to hawk my wares out there? But if I can, once I have kind of the license to what people are making fun of my 1930s language.
I'm just surprised Lauren didn't say something to that ilk yet.
We used ilk and hawk wares. Wow, we are.
Can you spell the words you guys are saying right now? What are these?
Should we do a spelling bee now?
Wares is Wares. Hawk would be HOC. It might be K. Might have a K. I'm not sure if it's related to ad hoc. But yeah, I don't know. I'm making it up. I'm picking it up from old timey language. Sell their stuff.
Eons ago.
From eons of stuff. Days of yore. The days of yore, because we're talking about cyclical recession. So I'm pulling it directly from the recession books of yore. Either way. What is the right way? Is it even okay to be able to be marketing right now? Then we go into how, because we do want people, the priority should be keeping people employed and keeping, your staff on. And certainly we've dealt with and we've accepted the fact that some of our clients had to reduce their budget with us, in order to make room for additional investment. And some of it's been to paid spend, paid placement. Some of it's been to others. But like we said, we're putting in that time because we think there's a long-term benefit for them and us to be working together. I'm sorry, Courtney. Am I boring you?
I was trying to hold it so bad because I knew you would take it like that.
And Kelly's on another rant. Yep, gotta.
Just okay. So we want you to stop. We just yawn. Got it.
Yeah, there we go. So, but it's that is where we're trying to go. Is yes, we feel like we're upping our investment in marketing ourselves as a company, and any clients that can do it and not be worried about having to lay people off as a result, it is a good and very smart investment to be doing right now. And I believe it's riskier to cut back marketing. And that was my inclination at first. And my partner, Chris, business partner, Chris, Lauren's always careful to call that out, made careful that we don't do that because it was important that we continue. We have to eat our own dog food on that. But me having my CPA background, I was like, oh, look, here's a line item. But we knew that was the wrong thing, but that was the inclination. So it's not the right move. And we are investing and we're urging our clients to, assuming they can. Yeah. Sorry, any more yawns on that?
You're fine.
Okay. And it is a roundtable. We're all allowed to make fun of me. If we want to take a round, anybody want to take a shot at me? I'll go round. No? Okay. What are your suggestions for anyone looking? What are the suggestions for, say, May, June? What are your expectations? What should people be doing coming out of this and getting back to normal? Anyone able to look that far ahead yet with their clients?
I mean, I'll just chime in real quick. I mean, I think obviously we're still in that crisis mode where we're taking care of your existing customers, but I do think more opportunities for referrals and new acquisitions will seem more likely. So considering targeting industries that are kind of recession proof would be a tidbit from me.
Cool.
I was just going to say, I think it's going to be a slow move back into reality, kind of what I was mentioning earlier. I don't mean slow as in doing no marketing. I just mean that we've developed a lot of campaigns for clients right now with messaging associated to people's current sentiments and fears and anything that they can do to help the community. And I don't think just because an order might change that people's feelings are going to change immediately. So I think that a lot of it is going to be similar to how they came into it, is really messaging focused first, and then building your plan around that specific messaging. And that's going to a lot depend on what happens in the next month. Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? It's hard to plan too far in advance, not knowing a lot of those things. But a lot of it's going to be all the stuff that we did at first, updating your website, updating your pinned posts on all your social channels, making sure your messaging on all of your organic social is really tied into what's happening current, showing who you are. So a lot of that stuff I think is going to be really similar. And as long as our clients are sticking with us and continually marketing throughout, it's just going to gradually happen, and it's not going to be such a shock. Other than for those people who are just totally closed down, which is different, because those people pretty much are just have stopped doing a lot of stuff. Like one of our clients who has turned off any purchasing capabilities on their website. So that is going to be a total change, because you don't only have to think about your marketing, you have to think about your employees and your team, and they can't just spin right back up into what they were doing. So a lot of that we're going to have to react to them and how they're getting their teams to spin up, which I think is going to take a few weeks of time for them to internally figure out what that means to them, so we can then support them.
You know what that makes me think of? I don't know if I'm the only one who's ever had this. Have you ever had I frequently have that first day of kindergarten or first day of summer camp kind of feeling of, if you've been home so much, it even hits me on vacations. Like if I spend too much time with my family and my home, not too much maybe, but a lot of time, I've developed that comfort in that, and going out into the world and having to face the real world again, even though we're engaging that in real work, online, so to speak, that kind of emotional change, I think, is going to be difficult for people just being back in the office. And those first few weeks are just going to be people getting used to being in an office with people again and not having their kids right there. As much of a challenge as right now, our kids and our dogs and all of our loved ones are going to have that immediate kind of, oh, thank goodness they're, I have some free space. But at the same time, it's going to be an emotionally challenging thing to be making that drastic change. I think I'm making Lauren get ready to cry.
No, I'm just thinking, like, for sure. And also my kids, I mean, I went to the bathroom today and I could hear Zoe out here crying and asking Jason, my husband, where I was. I came back, I was literally like in there for 2 seconds. But when I came back, she's like, Mommy, I was sad. Where were you? And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, it's
like, what habits are we creating in them right now? But
yep.
it definitely is going to be a challenge.
I think a lot of the comeback will just depend on what your business is and what's been going on this entire time for you. Like, to Lauren, to your point of people who have been completely shut down and have to re-spin back up, those companies are potentially not going to have the money to just start paying all their employees.
Right.
And they're going to have to try to figure out how they can start generating some revenue with a skeleton crew, and obviously needing some help getting that messaging back out there. And I think a sensitivity, if you're selling a non-essential, and I mean that in more of a broader term than like what we're using it right now, but if you're selling something like furniture, or maybe even like automobiles, or just some things that are kind of like luxury optional, where you need it, but you don't maybe need a new one right now. Right. There might be a sensitivity of recognizing that there were a lot of people economically impacted during this. And then that's not going to be where their minds are at on spending a couple $1,000s on, some just new decor for their home. Whereas right. Other people have not been economically impacted. And right. They are like, I am just dying to get this couch that I've had to sit on for 2 months, and I need to replace it immediately. And so there's going to be a balance of, your audience is just going to be even more diversified probably now than it ever has been, because even though they might be your perfect target, they might be going through something that's not typical for them, right. Good or bad.
Right.
I'm also wondering about hiring campaigns and all of that, because there's a lot of people that have had to move on to other opportunities because their place of employment closed down. So there's going to be a lot of people in need of people too.
Yeah, there's going to be a transition. I think we have to, the key for us is, at least with our companies, we need to be flexible with, what campaigns and what support our clients need, the changes in the workforce, not just in where they're working or if they have enough employees, or they need more employees, or they don't need as many employees, or how, and the virtualization of our world, of how we communicate. So there's going to be some flexibility. It's a fluid situation. That's the phrase that people keep saying. But as we have some flexibility with how things come out of it, we know recessions happen. We know those companies that market during recessions tend to be more successful in the short and long term from that period. But at the same time, how that'll evolve, and the messaging, and what actually needs to be done, and buyer behavior, which we have an interesting conversation coming up on an upcoming podcast with somebody who studies and teaches customer behavior at the University of Akron. We're going to be sharing that in a couple of weeks here. So I'm interested to learn a little bit more about what that buying behavior is expected to be in the coming months/year as we head out of this. So other than that, we are about at an hour, at least, of us trying to record this. I don't know if we had some technical difficulties in the beginning, but other than that, thank you for taking your time out of this today. I know you guys all have a lot of client work. And Tom, you have some video games to get back to. So I want to appreciate
I don't even own a system anymore, man.
What was that?
Ever since I had kids, I don't even own a system anymore, man.
That's
Ever
true.
since I had kids 7 years ago, I've got no gaming in anymore. So.
Yeah. Well,
it's a bummer.
I know you got a lot of work. Anyways, thank you for everybody for being a part of this. I appreciate it. We'll be getting this out. Yeah, we did pretty good.
We've ever been.
Yes. super productive. Awesome. Thank you, guys. You have a good night.
All right. See ya.
All right. Bye.